Catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this P word right in your face. Swipe your nose like a credit card. Hop on top, I wanna ride. I do a Kegel while it's inside. Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes. This P word is wet, come take a dive. You really ain't never gonna F him for a thing. He already made his mind up before he came. Now get your boots and your coat for this wet ass P word. Pay my tuition just to kiss me on this wet ass P. Right, so.
The internet is a very strange place. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski of WeAreChange.org. Lots to talk about specifically in this video relating to the Russians, specifically Russian Federation President Vladimir Putin, that just came out in a bombshell announcement saying that he has the cure for the C-word sickness that we can't even mention here on YouTube, so we're going to call it the Conholio sickness. Lots to discuss there, and if we have time, we're also going to be addressing some of the events that are literally tearing this nation apart, I think on purpose. I'll tell you why. All, of course, on this independent media organization that keeps having to say, I told you so, because we freaking told you so, about so many gosh darn things that are happening in this world that you predominantly won't hear from the 6 major conglomerates that control almost virtually any form of media. So yeah, as we're getting censored, shadow banned, and now we're also 100% demonetized, to continue our work, we need your support and help more than ever. And if you have 2 minutes, we greatly appreciate any smallest amount of support. The most common donation that we receive is $5. And whether through cryptocurrencies, physical mail, credit cards, PayPal, whatever it may be, you can very easily and quickly do it on wearechange.org/donate. Check out the link down below. If you're cash-strapped like the most of us, check out the ways that you could even support us without spending a single dime, but also enrich you, which creates a win-win scenario for all of us. But if you're loaded, hey, come on. We appreciate the little bit. That, of course, goes a long way. Now, one of the biggest headlines that is being debated and talked about right now is, of course, the latest news coming from Russian President Vladimir Putin that publicly announced that his country just developed and made a vaccine for the Conholio sickness that is, quote, quite effective, and Vladimir Putin said it passed all necessary tests to be used. He even said one of his 2 daughters has been vaccinated with this new vaccine, which the Russians are calling Sputnik 5, a tribute, of course, to Sputnik 1, which was the first artificial satellite that the Soviet Union was able to launch into orbit in 1957. A big achievement for them that was toted around and used for political purposes during, of course, the Cold War against the United States, which some critics are saying is a nod to the already existing geopolitical tensions between Russia and the United States. Now, the vaccine hasn't passed Phase 3 of trials, and this news is facing a lot of criticism and backlash. Now, is this vaccine safe and effective as Vladimir Putin says it is? Maybe. Could be. But is it likely? No, since, of course, there hasn't been a vaccine ever for coronavirus, specifically all categories of coronavirus, including SARS and MERS. And with this sickness allegedly mutating and the situation rapidly changing dramatically in different places all over the world, it's very unlikely that this vaccine works as Putin says it does. But who knows? We don't have any official information. This is all speculation that I'm even talking about, but coming from a critical point of view, which needs to happen with almost every form of government or medical agency nowadays, since, of course, the general public was lied to so much regarding this sickness, and of course even previous sicknesses before that. When we're told just to blindly believe and trust Big Pharma and not to look into things like our immune systems, exercise, sleep, and diet, and most importantly also vitamin D, which according to several studies and reports is one of the best and most effective ways to defend yourself against the Conholio sickness, there's very little talk, very little conversation about this, and a lot of talk and promotion of this vaccine, especially in U.S. mainstream media outlets and organizations that are now predominantly trashing Russia's vaccine claims, as even the former FDA head, the World Health Organization, which, by the way, is a total sham of an organization that was reporting that there was no human-to-human transmission. They flip-flopped on masks. They flip-flopped on so many different issues. Don't even get me started. Their corrupt relationship with China needs to be addressed, but the FDA, the World Health Organization, that are now criticizing Russia about their practices also don't have the best history themselves when it comes to doing the right thing. So how the hell are we supposed to find out who's telling the truth here, especially with a situation where we can't even test for this appropriately? And there's a number of reports coming together of people testing negative and then positive with the same test in a matter of moments. There's individuals who never took the test and were classified as, quote, positive cases of the Konholio sickness. And we've reached a point where even Bill Gates himself, one of the major proponents of the vaccine, has come out and said that the testing is absolutely insane and has, quote, mind-blowing problems. Again, something that we've been saying for months here on this independent YouTube channel, and could be one of the reasons why we got fully demonetized, because we were reporting on this from the very beginning. Now we have the whole mess with HCQ that has been commonly used, that Tylenol actually has more severe side effects, that had a very biased study done against it that had to be called back, retracted, and we have to wonder why we're hearing such criticisms of Russia now, but not China, where even major news organizations like NBC are just regurgitating government-sponsored propaganda lines from the Chinese government in their, quote, news reports. And with this whole mess, with testing, with HCQ, with the larger geopolitics of this, with the larger disinformation propaganda efforts, we're supposed to just blindly believe the experts and to not question the authorities that are literally choking out teenage girls because they're not wearing a mask. The irony here is too rich, as of course the response and lockdown to the sickness is going to lead to extreme poverty, while the majority of deaths from this sickness literally came from 5 states where Democratic governors ordered sick and elderly patients back to nursing homes. That's where the major portion of the deaths came from in this country. And yeah, if we're going to heavily criticize Putin, the Russians, and their medical practices, well, we better have the same amount of scrutiny, criticism, hypervigilance, calls for accountability and evidence from our own, quote, leaders, just like we do others, like Vladimir Putin. And that's the job of the media, of journalists, of reporters that are supposed to be hypervigilant, or supposed to be critical of all of the issues that actually affect humanity, but they're not. They're just obviously working for special interests. And if they're not selectively nitpicking accountability, they're also trying to push a racial divide in this country by selecting and focusing certain events that fits their agenda, fits their narrative, pushes the larger divide and conquer agenda, while completely ignoring others. And there's a lot of heinous, absolutely horrible events that unfold in this country. The ones that are promoted spur on protests and riots that are supposedly justifiable because of them. Others, like this, are mainly largely ignored and are just as heinous and disgusting as the ones selected by the mainstream media to promote. Again, lots of heinous, nasty, destructive stuff out there that won't get any better. It's only going to get worse, especially in inner cities, just like we saw in Chicago, where now BLM protesters are saying that their acts of looting recently was justified, and it is their, quote, reparations. And I know there's going to be some loon tunes that are going to be making the arguments that stealing from major corporations is somehow justifiable. Again, you should never become what you're fighting. But it's not just major chains and Gucci stores that are being robbed. It's also mom and pop businesses like this from immigrant families that are absolutely being ransacked, pillaged, and destroyed, seeing their livelihoods just being eviscerated from them, all in the name of a protest movement that the mainstream media desperately tries to convince everyone is, quote, mainly peaceful. Again, we have to remember this is an idea that's being promoted by the major corporations, by the big banks, by a lot of politicians, and also, of course, the mainstream media. And the events in Chicago, especially what sparked them, is absolutely bewildering, to say the least, compared to, of course, other events that should leave you asking, what the hell is going on here. Again, being in the cities is definitely not where you are going to want to be. It is not a smart place, especially with the extreme poverty that is coming very soon. Get ready, prepare accordingly. This is why we're here as an independent media organization, providing you different sides of the story. If you appreciated it, if you liked it, if you enjoyed it, if you think this information is valuable for someone else, please share it with them, because again, the YouTube algorithm is definitely not favorable to us, as they've been shadow banning us for a very long time, heavily censoring us, and also, of course, just cut off our lifeline to exist. So again, your support is more important than ever. If you can't donate, I totally understand. Just sharing this video also helps out tremendously. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why. Love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.